Dear ladies and gentlemen, good evening in Shanghai and good morning in Switzerland. A warm welcome to our 18th edition of the Café series here at the Swissnex office. My name is Florian Murray. I'm a project coordinator at Swissnex China. Swissnex China has 5 offices, or Swissnex, the network has 5 offices around the world. 2 in the United States, 1 in India, 1 in Brazil, and us in China. For the past 11 years, we have been actively trying to connecting the dots between Switzerland and China in the fields of education, research, and also innovation. Today, it's a bit special for us because it's the first hybrid event we're organizing here at Swissnex. What does that mean? It means we also have on-site guests and speakers back in our office again. That's also the reason why sometimes I will look besides the camera instead of into the camera. So just to let you know. And already the first input to our online audience, on the bottom of your Zoom page, you'll have the Q&A function. So during all the presentations, feel free to put in your questions, to pose your questions. We'll try to answer them later in the Q&A session. So this event is part of the Café de Sciences format, which started in 2019. Through a monthly platform, we try to present Swiss spotlight scientists, artists, and startups, and also their projects. The casual setting allows them to connect with the local community. So without further ado, let's get into the topic, MaskTech. Masks are probably one of the most discussed topics in recent times. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic has prompted the widespread use of face masks by the general public to prevent the transmission of the novel coronavirus. With this topic comes a broad field of further actions. Nationwide projects to improve mask technology, or ventures by private companies as well to work on the technology or innovation of new masks. Our first speaker is Professor Dr. René Rossi. He's head of the Laboratory of Biomimetic Membranes and Textiles at Empa. He's part of the ReMask project as well, initiated by the Swiss National COVID-19 Task Force. In cooperation with research, healthcare, and industry, Professor Rossi and his team work on development of new types of masks and technologies for reusing existing protective materials for now, but also for future pandemics. In addition, new analytical methods using virus-mimicking structures are currently being developed to find out and understand the absorption of diffusion kinetics of the virus through textiles. So in the next few minutes, Mr. Rossi will speak about smart fiber technologies for the development of new face masks. Professor Rossi, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Florian. I think you should be able to see my screen now. So thank you for this introduction. Yes, my name is René Rossi. I'm heading the Laboratory of Biomimetic Membranes and Textiles. We are developing different new fibers, new fiber technologies for applications in health tech and med tech. So masks is one of the activities that we started already some years ago, and that is very helpful now for the different developments that are ongoing. I'm also a member of the Swiss National COVID-19 Science Task Force. We are a scientific expert group that advises the government and political authorities in different questions around the pandemic. So now, yeah. So in the frame of this science task force, we were asked by the government to create recommendations for so-called community masks. So these are textile-based masks or cloth masks that have no specific protection And we had the impression that if these textile-based masks are worn, they have to fulfill some specifications. So we defined these minimum specifications in this ReMask group, in this scientific ReMask group. You see a map of Switzerland here. We are around 15 institutes working in this mask questions. So apart from academic partners from both ETH, Zurich and Lausanne, and Empa as the Materials Research Institute in Switzerland, we also have different partners from hospitals like University Hospital of Zurich or Geneva or Basel, Bern or Winterthur. So we developed these specifications. As you may know, there are two types of masks that are standardized. We have the protection masks or FFP masks and surgical masks. But for these cloth or textile masks, we had no specifications. So there are some countries that started to develop these specifications or even standards. And in Switzerland, we defined this recommendation. So basically, we required three different tests. So two tests on protection. We specified that we wanted to have a certain protection against liquid droplets. So we defined a certain splash resistance. We defined that we should have no liquid penetration. And here, as a liquid, we use synthetic saliva, and we then produce a jet with a pressure that corresponds to a cuffing. And then we also defined a certain filtration efficiency, so 70% of filtration efficiency for a particle size of 1 micrometer. So the virus itself is much smaller than 1 micrometer. It has a diameter of between 60 and 140 nanometers, but usually it's embedded in a liquid droplet or an aerosol, and therefore we define this particle size of 1 micrometer. So these are the two protection requirements, and of course, if you are already familiar with wearing masks, you will know that sometimes they're quite uncomfortable to wear, and this also limits the time that these masks can be worn, and therefore we also have to have a certain requirement for the comfort. And here, for the surgical masks, we have a requirement on the breathability, so on the air permeability, and here we took over more or less the requirement for the surgical masks, and we ask a minimum air permeability for these masks. And in parallel to these recommendations, we also started to advise different companies how to produce these community masks, or also we have some companies in Switzerland that started producing FFP masks and also surgical masks. So we started these different scientific activities, and these activities are now being financed via InnoSwiss. InnoSwiss is our innovation agency in Switzerland that funds projects between academic partners and industries. So we are 4 academic partners, apart from the 2 ETHs of Lausanne and Zurich, Empa. We have the laboratory of Spiez that is specialized in the penetration of pathogens and viruses. And we started this project around 2 weeks ago, and we now have 47 companies in Switzerland that participate in this project. So these are mainly textile companies, but also companies from textile machineries. We have membrane producing companies, and we also have companies that work on new designs of masks. So we address different questions around surgical masks, FFP masks, but also these textile-based community masks. The goals of the project is, on one hand, to optimize the balance between comfort and protection, so that we can use these masks for a longer time. We also focus on trying to have sustainable solutions, so not only have single-use masks, but to multiply the use of masks. So we are also looking at possibilities to wash or to sterilize the masks. And then another topic is to model and simulate the filtration efficiency versus the air permeability. So here we want to have an optimum in the filtration, in the porosity of the membrane technology to reach a good balance and a good compromise between the protection and comfort properties. Then we also develop some analytical methods, some new analytical methods, and especially we want to focus on harmless substances, so-called virusomes, that mimic more or less the structure of some viruses, so of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, but also some other viruses like the influenza virus. So all these viruses have a lipidic shell, they have spikes, and this can be mimicked with some harmless structures like these virusomes. So we are developing the analytics to be able, for instance, to look at the efficiency of antiviral coatings. And then we also develop some new mask systems by using some new technologies like advanced manufacturing, etc. So today, as I'm speaking about smart fiber technologies, I will concentrate here on the optimization of the breathability, of the wear comfort, and the filtration efficiency. So we have different technologies to make fibers. We can make fibers via melt spinning, for instance, or thermal drawing, but we in our laboratory use solution spinning. So the polymers are dissolved in solvents, and we use basically two technologies to make the fibers. On one hand, we use this electrospinning technology to make so-called nanofibers, so very thin fibers, and the diameters are in the order of 50 nanometers up to around 1 micrometer. And with this, usually these fibers are not single fibers, but usually they're embedded in a membrane. And we can also make fibers, classical fibers, using this microfluidic wet spinning, where we can put different components into here this challenge to form such fibers. These can be optical fibers that are called core shell structures, or multi-component fibers, hybridic fibers that can be used for instance, for drug delivery systems. So today, as we are speaking about membranes, I will focus on this electrospinning technology. And electrospinning is a technology where we use, as I said, polymer solution that we inject here in a needle. The needle is under tension, so we have a certain potential here. And via electrostatic discharge, we then form this fiber. So this can be a single fiber process, or if we use such industrial plants, we can also have a multi-fiber system to create these membranes. And so we can, for instance, produce this membrane onto a normal textile. So here you see a woven structure with normal fibers with a diameter usually of around 100 micrometer, maybe even 1 millimeter. And we have these nanofibers that come in between. And depending on the processing conditions, we can even make a structure that will be transparent, but I will come later to this project. So this technology is quite versatile. We can change a lot of parameters. We can change parameters in the solution. So we can put more electric charges in this solution, which will change here the velocity of the production of the fiber. We can also change the viscosity here of the solution. We can also mix different solvents, and with this we can then change the morphology of the fiber. That's what you see here. So we can, for instance, if we look at here at discharge, we can predict with a certain model that is called Hansen solubility parameters. So this sphere would represent the polymer, and when we look at different solvents, we can predict if the solvent would dissolve this polymer or not. So if the solvents are within the sphere, the polymer will be dissolved by this solvent, and if it's outside of this sphere, this will be a non-solvent for this polymer. And by mixing different solvents, so for instance, if we take a mixture between a solvent like chloroform and a non-solvent like DMSO, we can have a phase separation in the polymer solution, and this creates then some complex architectures here, like this porous structure. So we have polymer-rich zones where the polymer was dissolved in the solvent, and polymer-poor regions where we had the non-solvent. So we can play around here with the different mixtures of solvent, non-solvent, so here chloroform and DMSO. By increasing the amount of DMSO, we have more and more phase separation, and can then increase the size of pores. But we can also adapt the parameters of the production. So if we change the temperature or the relative humidity in the chamber, we will also adapt the evaporation rate of the fiber. And here again, we can produce, just by changing the relative humidity, we can change from a smooth fiber to a porous fiber. And the pores, and that's what is very interesting, are of the order of size of the nanometer range. So they let water vapor pass, so they are breathable, but on the other hand, they would retain the viruses or other pathogens. We can also play by changing the velocity of the formation of the fiber. We can obtain either longitudinal structures, so fibrillar structures, or here lamellar structures. So by changing this velocity, this will change the draw of the fiber. So this will either align here the different polymer chains, or have a very chaotic structure that would be more like a lamellar structure. And with this, we can change the mechanics of the fibers. So the mechanics are obviously also very important for the durability and the long wear time of a membrane. We can also mix different polymers. So here, if we make sort of a core shell structure that you see here. So here in this example, we mixed polyurethane with PVDF. So we have a core shell structure. We have the polyurethane here as the core, and we can then change the mechanical properties of this mixed or this hybridic fiber. So polyurethane is quite elastic. PVDF is not very elastic, and if we mix the two polymers, we reach higher elasticity of this hybrid fiber. But if we manage to have the PVDF at the surface, PVDF that is hydrophobic, we can then have the property of the pure PVDF structure. So for instance, for medical application, we can trigger the protein adsorption of these fibers. So we have the elasticity of the polyurethane and the protein adsorption of the PVDF. So with this, by triggering the different processes of these fibers, we can even manage to make a transparent structure. And for this, if we look at the structure of a normal surgical mask, we see here that we have quite some thick fibers, and with this, the whole structure becomes opaque. If we want to have a transparent structure, we have to make very thin fibers. so fibers in the order of size or below 100 nanometers, so that we have a high transparency of this system. And so that's what we did by mixing different polymers. So here we used chitosan and PCl in different mixtures. And with this, with these different mixtures, we could change the fiber diameter and also the transparency of the mask. So we see here, if we have a fiber of the order of 30, 40 nanometers, we have a transparency of over 90%. And so if we increase the time where we produce the membrane, we will have more and more layers of fibers that are piled onto each other. And with this, we can adjust, on one hand, the air permeability, but also the transparency of the mask. And we can then here obtain an optimum between the mechanical robustness of the fiber. For this, we need a certain minimum thickness of the membrane, but then still obtain a certain transparency and also a good air permeability, and with this a good comfort. So here we are quite versatile to change these different conditions, also change the morphology of the fiber to reach the porosity and the filtration efficiency as we want to have it. And at the end, we can reach this sort of structure. So we see we have a normal Vowen structure here, and we can then produce this membrane on top with the very thin fibers here. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Rossi, for the scientific background of the mask. That's much appreciated. So now we're switching to our next speaker, or a speaker duo, basically. We present HiQ. It's a company based in Schlieren, Switzerland. HiQ defines itself as a 3-in-1 company: scientific research, specialty materials manufacturing, and consumer ingredient branding. With a focus on chemicals, HiQ develops and manufactures high-performance textile effects for brands like Adidas, Mammut, On Running, or also IKEA. We are lucky enough to have two important members of this company with us today. On one side, there is Celine Huang, CEO for Greater China at HiQ, in our office tonight. Our first on-site speaker since a while. And she is working for HiQ since 2019 and is leading the company's Greater China business from the newly created Shanghai office. We also have the CEO of the HiQ Group, Carlo Centonce, who is joining us from Switzerland. He co-founded HiQ in 2005 as an ETH spin-off, developing the firm from a 2-employee company to a 40-employee company. We will hear from him about from them both about their latest product launch and the technology behind it. Please, Carlo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and let me beam up the presentation for you. Should be visible. Yes, very good. So thanks a lot for the introduction, and just one correction. Yes, we were 40, maybe beginning 2019, we're almost 100 people now, so it's going pretty quick at the moment. So very happy to be there with you, and I'll just give you a quick introduction to HiQ before jumping into HiQ Viralblock, which is the key topic today, as one of the leading antiviral functionalizations, especially also for mask businesses. I founded HiQ 15 years ago together with Murray, who's an Australian, who joined me at ETH from MIT. And the company was actually found on a silver technology, which we engineered at the time to make smelly polyester t-shirts after a 5-day hike in the Swiss mountains turn more acceptable to our then spouses. So the company started by solving its own key problems, and we have kept it like that. And as it was mentioned, we see ourselves as this 3-in-1 company that is still strongly anchored in fundamental research, which we do, but also has taken a big step out over the last decade into becoming one of the leading manufacturers of specialty technologies for the textile industry. We do see ourselves as marketing company because we help to differentiate and we help to create technologies that give at the point of sales an advantage to our brand partners. So we're very happy to be with you in China today. And I'm very happy to have Celine there, who is leading our Asian business. I'm more active on the other side of the continent, as you can see here. HiQ is really a global company with a nimble team that is capable to serve and cater the textile innovation. A few cliches on HiQ. We do like to be really a Swiss company, although we are very international in our team. And really Swiss means that we take the Swiss Army knife as an idea. We are a tool for every problem, and that this is really what we do offer to our customers. We have been luckily awarded the Swiss Technology Award, but also the Swiss Environmental Award. So we are one of the companies that really stands for Swiss values and Swiss capabilities to come up with innovation. And this has been widely accepted in our industry, where HiQ serves today more than 200 brands and more than 900 mills on a global scale. But let's come to Viralblock, which is one of our top 10 families of technologies, which we have with over 200 products that HiQ is manufacturing actively. Viralblock was really a challenge for us. It was something that we saw coming up early in the first days of December, and we immediately switched the company to jump on a potential problem that could hit the world. And I'm very proud of our team that managed to turn around a product development that normally takes almost 1.5 to 2 years in 6 weeks, and run out with a technology that really could help us to go to market and help healthcare professionals, but also help today people returning to normal lives by functionalizing their garments, but also public transportation, textiles, etc. From batch to full cargo planes that we have been flying around in the world with Swiss in less than 6 weeks really stands as an amazing achievement from my team, for which I'm very, very proud. Let's jump into the issue. The issue is SARS-CoV-2 causing the COVID-19. You're all familiar with it. The real issue on textile is the persistence of such a virus. Latest research is showing that we have up to 2 days of persistence of a virus while retaining its infectiousness. So obviously that is a big problem. Textiles are a big surface, and we are in contact with textiles ever more. There's a clear correlation between wearing a mask and being able to reduce the risk of getting infected. There's a clear correlation of having masks compulsory for the community and having less infection cases. So it is really a very simple tool, but it is a simple tool that also is not used safely by many of the consumers. Professional wearers in hospitals are trained not to touch themselves after they touch their masks. We normal consumers don't. So what we want to do with HiQ Viralblock is to, on the one side, help the professional ones with more performance on filtration of active viruses, but on the other side also help consumers with less risk of contamination from their own masks. So the solution that we came up with is really rooted in HiQ's DNA of its technology platforms. On the one side, what created HiQ 15 years ago, a silver technology, which we very, very well understand, that has a very strong antibacterial, but also an antiviral effect thanks to its surface charge. On the other side, a partner technology that we managed to bring in 2011, a vesicle technology that was combined with the silver platform for this event in order to have a very strong antiviral, antibacterial technology that could help to protect against contamination and transmission, especially from masks. Going a little bit into the detail, how is the silver working? The silver has a very strong positive charge. You can see the virus having a strong negative charge being strongly attracted by the positive charge. Plus and minus charges attract each other, especially in aqueous environment. And when the virus hits the silver particle, there's a very strong bond between the two. The silver likes to bind to sulfur groups that are present in the viral membrane, and this acts like an anchor, making the virus non-mobile anymore. We then have a second technology that is kicking in. We call this our vesicle technology. It's basically a liposome. You can think of it as another particle very similar to the virus, just not containing anything, but the membrane looks exactly the same. It's a non-phospholipid bilayer. With one big difference, it does not contain any cholesterol. While the viral particle is very rich in cholesterol, the HiQ vesicle is very poor or has no cholesterol. And now, thanks to a gradient technology that we have developed here, we can draw this cholesterol out in a very, very short time, and thereby we can deplete the membrane, make it brittle, lyse it, and when this membrane of the virus is broken up, the RNA inside can be oxidized very quickly and destroyed. So the advantage of these two technologies working synergistically is that we are really able to prevent a retransmission, which can happen from an untreated fabric or from an untreated mask if you don't handle it properly or get in contact with it. So we are giving much more certainty to a textile surface, and we are reducing the potential risk for a retransmission. And we do this with this technology thanks to its really rapid mode of action. The synergistic effect is unique worldwide. It gives a very fast destruction potential to the viral particles, and we can see that in less than a minute we already have 98% of reduction of the viral infectivity from a control here that has been inoculated, in this case with the Sendai virus that has been exposed on a textile surface. So within 2 to 5 minutes, basically a full viral load is destroyed, and this gives a very strong protection to the textile surface that has been treated. It's a broadband technology. It works against viruses, it works against bacteria, it works against yeast, and it is very widely applicable on all types of fabrics and all types of processes that exist in our industry. Now, one of the important things is we are probably the first company in the world to test the SARS-CoV-2 virus with our technology. We were lucky enough to have a strong partnership with the Doherty Labs in Australia, which is one of the leading virology labs worldwide. And we have been developing testing protocols with them that allowed us to see that we have a 99.99 destruction of the SARS-CoV-2 virus on a textile surface, in this case in 30 minutes, because the protocol was designed to be running for 30 minutes. So very strong result, and the first result worldwide on a textile treated with a antiviral technology against SARS-CoV-2. Important is, of course, also the testing of masks and what happens if we compare a treated versus an untreated mask, in this case here an FFP2 mask manufactured in China. And if we look at the testing performances of the control in gray and the HiQ Viralblock in blue, and we see that the log reduction is significantly higher. So we have more than 1.5 points higher log reduction on an already very filtering, very performing professional mask. This is a few more nines behind the first one, 999 reduction. But what does that mean? If we simulate a cough or a sneeze with 100,000 droplets that typically are in the air and hit the mask, and we can see what the big difference means. 23 particles of infectious viruses make it through the mask, or less than 1. And this is a factor 20 higher protection for a mask that can be established. Where can a high-Q Viralblock be used? Masks has been one of our key priorities. Celine will say a little more to the masks that we make later on, but also medical non-wovens, surgical gowns, etc., have been in high demand, and we have done the utmost to supply our healthcare workers with it. Increasingly, we're seeing demand from clothing, from home textile, from public transportation brands, but also from air filtration companies. People want to have comfort of having a environment around them where the risk of contamination or infection is reduced and minimized. A few examples of people on the market. We have more than 1,000 companies that work with us, many in the mask business, some fashion companies like Burberry here, some intimate apparel companies like Hanes, shirting makers like Albini in Italy, bed mattress makers like Serta Simmons in the US. So a very wide variety of textile brands that are looking at featuring antiviral technologies going forward to match and come up to increasing consumer demand. Very proud of Celine's team, who has in very, very short time created our OEM capacity in China to produce such masks, and also supported the effort in bringing professional masks to our healthcare workers serving Swiss hospitals that have taken advantage of an increased level of protection with the high-Q Viralblock masks. So far, we have produced and shipped over 300 million masks treated with Viralblock, and 4 million of professional respirators that we have done. So I will hand over to Celine, and thank you very much for your attention.
Hi everyone, good evening. This is Celine Huang from high-Q China. So as you can see, or as you heard, and our CEO Carlo had introduced our new technology of this how to defend or how to defend ourselves from the virus. But here, for my part, I would like to talk more easy part. So if we go to this PowerPoint, and then for sure the purpose why high-Q as a chemical company now producing masks. The reason is we really want to do something for helping us, because you know till now we haven't got vaccine for this COVID-19, so it could be a high risk now or in the near future. It could be another spreading of the virus. So what shall we do? So actually, with our technology, with this Viralblock, we start to manufacturing of the mask since end of March. So also many thanks for our partner in China, Suzhou Bolisi and Conveer. They really helping us to make it happen. So that means the first time we use the Viralblock on nonwoven, because before everybody thinks that the Viralblock as a chemical, normally it's seldom people to put chemical on a nonwoven fabric, because look at your mask, you can feel it's really like a paper thing, and no one thinks we can put any water or chemical on the mask. But then with our technology, we go to we went to talk with this mask manufacturer, and we just discussed maybe this technology, if we have the method that we can make it happen, it's really helping everybody. So in the end of the March, and we start to use a padding method. This is really very old and traditional method we use on the fabric. So we pad the nonwoven in a normal fabric maker or manufacturing mill. And I could say in the very beginning, it's really a difficulties, because you may know with the fabric when you're padding. So we will give some tense on the fabric to make the fabric move. But then with the nonwoven, because it's nonwoven, there's no wall and no wax, so it's very hard to keep the tension of the nonwoven. So we try many times, and then finally we found a method how to make a chemical by padding and dry on a nanoven. Then that means we can put a maximum 20% of the chemical itself on a nanoven. And by testing by our testing lab in Guangzhou, normally with the virus, we will go through ISO 18184. It's a virus testing. So with this testing, with our mask, the Viralblock mask, our virus reduction is 99.99. So it's really, really efficient, and it's really, really helping people to protect ourselves. So we make it happen, and we make the production. So this is the technology, or this is, you can see, this is the product name of the high-Q Viralblock NPJ03. Here, I would like to say again, because there's many technology in the market that they can do these antivirals. That's true, but then who can make it efficient, or who can make it quicker? This is a very good how to say, an issue for the chemical. So that's the reason we have two compounds in one product. That means we have the antibacterial effect plus this antivirus effect. It's really thanks to our new technology of these two components in one chemical. So that is the silver technology with our vesicle technology. And we skip here because Carlo made a very good explanation before. And then maybe here, I think maybe it's very interesting for us to look at these numbers, because with our mask, we have passed through this aerosol challenge test. It's really a scientific test for mask. You can see all these viruses here named. This is H1N1, H5N1, the human coronavirus, and H7N9, RSV, and also the tariff virus. And then you can see the numbers with testing with this very difficult and very strict aerosol challenge. Our virus reduction still can achieve 99.996, 99.99. It's all very good numbers here. So our mask. So now, as a chemical company, right now we provide or we sell the mask. So this is the KN95 mask with the Viralblock surface. So it helps to protect ourselves with 99.99% protection or reduction of the virus. So we have another one, because normally we have two types in the market. You can find the mask as the last page, and then the page like this. This is real. This is a real product or real commercial product in the market right now, and we have already export to Europe and USA last 3 months. And also, people, I think there's some questions from the audience that, okay, whether this is a Viralblock technology can only do on nonwoven. Yeah, but then actually the Viralblock technology can do mainly fabric. It can be knitting fabrics, it can go with the woven fabric, it can go with the polyester fabric, it can go with the cotton, wool, silk, and it's almost cover all different kinds of fabrics. So in Switzerland, we made this fabric mask, and with this technology, you can see from the outer layer, this polyester knit and treated with the Viralblock to help to protect the virus from us. And then in the middle, we have the double layer filter. It's according to, or really follows through the Iqin 14683, 2019, the highest standard in Europe. And then this one can be water repellent or treated with Viralblock again. And then in the inner layer, and there's the ultra soft polystyrene. It's really untreated, but then you feel really soft. When you touch your mask, can you tell me how many layers your mask have? Do you know? Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, normally with the mask, at least we have 3 layers. And then if you're going to protect more, normally we put more layers. And the next question, who can tell me, do you know what is very important layer inside the mask, in the middle? What is the maximum protection of the particle part? Yeah, correct. It's a melt and blown fabric, and it's really helping us from the particle side. This is, I think we still remember when we talk the PM 2.5, normally we think, oh, we would like to protect ourselves from the foggy. But then this is only protect from the particle side. So think about that. If we're wearing this particle mask or protection mask, then when you're wearing this mask and going to the hospital, you still have the chance to get the infection from the virus. But then you think we put this outer layer treated with Viralblock, then you are be more safer from the virus. So that's the reason we always said from the outer layer, we use the Viralblock treated. And then the brands listen to us. So I think, sorry. In the near future, you can see different kinds of masks, nonwoven masks, or even fabric masks with treated with a Viralblock. The outer layer, if you can see the Viralblock, this is a very nice red logo. You can make sure that this fabric or this kind of mask can protect you from the virus. And then this is really, really thanks to our headquarter team and also US team. We got our mask of the FDA approved, and then FDA authorized. We are the mask supplier for Viralblock mask. And then this is more size or more shapes and more designs with the mask you can have. And also we have this red, very nice mask and with the strips behind the head, and the surgical mask. And today we got a very big order from one of the Beijing Army hospital with the surgical mask treated with the Viralblock. I think maybe we heard some news from Beijing that there's some new infected people there. So I think right now, by helping with this kind of mask, we are really hope more people can get protected. And then this is the fashion mask. This is with a different design of the fabric cut, and it looks really like a film star when you're wearing this kind of mask. But don't be afraid. Even with this kind of fashion mask, you are still being protected by Viralblock. Okay, so then, yeah, this is our presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Celine, here in our office in Shanghai, and also Carlo back home in Switzerland. It was amazing to hear about those great innovations going on. Also, sorry again about misspelling the amount of employees. I'll try to do better research next time. Yeah, also, you could just hear the audience on site. They showed their appreciation by applauding. They did the same for Carlo and also for Professor Rossi. You might not have heard it. Just, now, the third and last presentation will be given by Theo. Then he's co-founder of Levetica Labs. Based at EPFL, he founded the startup in 2019. And in view of the current situation, Levetica Labs modified its activities, moving from anti-pollution masks to supplying healthcare personnel with novel facial structures to prevent injuries, which are caused by prolonged use of respiratory masks. Theo will join us also online and will talk about the company's newest launch, the skin protective layer. Please, Theo, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Florian, for the introduction. Afternoon, everyone. So my name is Theo. I'm co-founder and CEO of Levetica Labs. I'll take this opportunity to present a bit the company, what we were doing originally, and also how we reacted to the COVID crisis with a protective layer that I'll present at the end. So a bit about the founding team. I myself have a technical background coming from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. My co-founder used to be Vice President Marketing for Swatch. And the third partner we are working with is Thilo Brunner and his team from BMCO. They are quite famously known as a product design team, as they have been behind the On Cloud Shoes brand that's picking up quite well lately, especially since they signed Federer to be the spokesperson. And so the company is incorporated here in Switzerland at the EPFL Innovation Park. So this is an issue I don't usually have trouble to present in China, but sometimes in Europe we are less aware of that. But most people breathe bad air around the world, so air pollution is a huge issue. Also in Europe. This slide is a bit to underline that we started this activity with air pollution in mind, and also to give a bit of perspective. COVID-19 has been around the news a lot lately and has done over 400,000 deaths this year, but air pollution kills over 6 or 7 million people every year recurrently. So COVID-19 is a huge issue, but there is this underlying issue that is present and will be present for the upcoming years, that is air pollution. A bit about what's on the market. Let's say there are two big categories of masks, the soft shell and the hard shell. So the soft shell one are typically the one we are used to, those disposable masks, or the one with a fancier cover or better looking cover. Those are quite all right in case of pandemic, but when it comes to a nanoparticle or microparticle, they usually have an issue of fit to the face. So you can have a very nice filter, but if it doesn't fit your face properly, you basically lose protection. That's why there is this new category called the hard shell, where you would invest in a good sealing element that would fit properly your face and therefore provide good protection. And so I'm sorry I cannot show much detail of our mask because we are patenting stuff around it. So there's a bit of a cryptic image here. But the idea here and the vision is to provide a mask made in Switzerland that's optimizes for protection, comfort, and design. And the vision is that this mask would be an essential part of the urban lifestyle, similarly to, you know, when the first people came up with headphones, they would look a little strange, and the idea is that this product will have a function which is protection, but will also be completely part of your lifestyle and something you would like to wear. And we'll play, we are a Swiss company, and we are designing and producing this mask in Switzerland. And the idea here is to become an iconic Swiss design embedded in our values. And then, so we are still working on this project, but then the COVID-19 crisis happened. We were quite aware that existing anti-pollution masks or FFP2 masks were quite uncomfortable to wear. I guess you guys all have seen those images of health worker with rashes and and bruises on the face due to the prolonged wear of those type of masks. And so we decided to tackle this issue. And so we've designed this emergency response sleeve, which is a relatively simple product that is retrofitted to existing masks. And the idea is to put it on your face so it relieves pressure points, improve comforts, and also improve the sealing around the nose. That's sometimes quite difficult to make, and also fogs up your glasses. And why we've done that is, well, first we were in the industry and we were quite aware of the issue of existing masks. In our first product, we've invested a lot of time in doing a proper morphological seal that's very comfortable to use. So it was kind of a natural extension for us to do that, and also, you know, to play our part in this fight against COVID, or to help health workers with our know-how. And yeah, just take the opportunity, since we have some Chinese audience, we are looking for distributors for such product in China or around the world. And concerning our urban mask, we are raising a series, and we are starting to industrialize this in Switzerland to launch before the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Theo, for those very exciting and also much needed developments, I think. So now for the second part of this event, we will jump to the Q&A and discussion session. So again, a reminder to our online audience to post your questions in the Q&A section on the tab down below at Zoom. Yeah, to lose no time, we'll just start right away with on-site questions. If you might probably start with Professor Rossi, since he must leave in a short while. Yeah, and please also, if you might turn on the video so our audience can see you. Any questions or remarks? Yeah, please just come with the mic.
Yes, thank you. Hello, this is Yael from Sysnex. I have a question regarding, you touched briefly up in the topic of sustainability and also about reusing masks. This was something that was also later mentioned, but question for you, Professor Rossi, how would that look like, reusing masks? Would we wash them at home, or are there special facilities, or like what's the idea there?
Yeah, basically, at the right beginning of the pandemic, we faced a shortage of masks in Switzerland. So especially hospitals were looking for strategies to wear masks, surgical masks, for a longer time. So basically, we looked at strategies to sterilize the masks. Basically, surgical masks are polypropylene structures that are not made to be washed. But we see now some debates, some discussions also among surgeons, among hospital personnel, to have new categories of surgical masks that would be washable, recyclable. And so basically, to neutralize the virus, our group of medical doctors advised us to wash them at least 60 degrees Celsius and with proper detergent. And this is sufficient to neutralize the virus. For hospital purposes, we have to look at sterilization strategies like UV treatments or similar treatments that are already in use for other textile products like surgical gowns.
Thank you very much, Professor Rossi. I see we had another question here.
Yes, this is for Carlo. My name is Mike Crotty. I'm with Golden Pacific Fashion and Design. And the treatment you apply to the nonwoven. How is it applied, and how much, what's the premium to put it on nonwovens?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. So the method of application is typically done by padding. As Celine mentioned, it's not super easy to do it. There's also possibilities to have application by spray bars of the technology. So there's different ways to interface with the application technology that you can use in order to get a non-woven treated. Your second question, sorry, can you repeat that a second?
The second question is, how much does it cost?
Yeah, okay, thank you. This depends very much on the type of fabrics and how many layers you wanna finish with it, sorry. Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry, I'm just reading the questions from the online audience. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So I continue. It depends from how many layers you are finishing. You can typically calculate that the mask would take an upcharge of 15 to 30 cents of cost by chemistry if you would treat one layer.
USD? You will have another question? 15 to 30 cents USD? I think so, USD.
Yeah. USD.
US dollars. Okay. Okay. I see we have another question from an anonymous attendee here. What is the highest temperature for the high Q coating? Can you apply it on PES and use such substrates for our HP sublimation printer with temperatures of around 195 degrees?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's for Carlo. Or,
yeah, it's always a question of time of temperature. So typically the technology can resist a minute at 160 in a standard textile process without any problem. Sublimation print have been done. The performances have been good. They're higher temperatures, but there's always a question mark, how long is the exposure? So below 1 minute, we don't see an impairment of the technology. If it is longer, we have to test for it.
Another question also, if high-Q Viralblock is possible to be applied on leather?
Yes, it is in principle possible. We're working with a few leather companies at the moment that are validating it. So as soon as we have data, we will confirm that this is a viable way to have a functionalization of a leather.
Okay. Is there any other question in the live audience, maybe for Professor Rossi, since he has to leave very soon?
So this is Jack here. Nice to have this chance. So Professor Rossi, your fabric can be transparent, right? What's the transparency? Because from my point, sometimes the mask don't need to cover your mouth. It covers your nose and your eyes. And another problem is always the filtration and breathable. So for my problem, if I breathe in winter, if I cover mouth, the wet will just spread, and especially from the slot of the nose to wet my glass. But if it's something like from the nose to cover, or it can be designed just cover the nose, but something transparent that can cover the eye, that can be a solution as well. Okay, another question is about how long is the coating? Is a medicine spread it? Then it's a lifetime of the, or if you store it without using, how long will it last? That's for the high Q. Thank you.
No. Professor Rossi,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have to unmute. Yeah, concerning the transparency, I mean, the transparency is dependent on the number of layers that we have for the different fibers that we put on. So we can reach a transparency of over 90%, but then the membrane is very thin, so it is also mechanically not that robust. So it's always we have to find a balance between mechanical robustness, porosity, filtration efficiency, and breathability. But you're right that basically in the standards for the protection masks and also surgical masks, there is no requirement on water vapor permeability and also not on humidity absorption. It's only about air permeability, and we also see this as a big problem that moisture can accumulate, and this can especially be well, not so optimal for people wearing glasses. So here we are also looking for solutions to increase the permeability, the water vapor permeability, and in the same time not reduce the filtration efficiency. Concerning putting on over the eyes, yeah, probably if we have a full face mask, this would offer a better protection, but for the moment it's always a compromise if you are protecting the environment from the wearer or the wearer from the environment. So here again there are different debates. Especially surgical masks are made to protect the environment from the wearer, so from the release of droplets from the mouth. So you are supposed to cover mouth and nose.
I think the second question was for Heikki, right? Yeah.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
It's just it's kind of a medicine spray on the coast or whatever. So if it's medicine, then it's how long will it consume? It will just wear out during like killing the virus, or it goes with the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand your question now. Thank you.
And also, in another sense, it's a great thing. Like traditional mask, it's mainly about the sink filter for all static, which is can be destroyed by the moisture. So if it's like a medicine layer, in that sense, it can be very thin mask still work. So how thin can this coating and the mask be? Then it will be breathable compared to the normal KN95.
Correct. So one of the advantages of this mask, and this is maybe a bit difficult to understand as a concept, but a way that this technology works is that it is in seconds starting to break down the viral membrane, and in seconds it starts to deactivate the viruses. So you have to think about it that when you breathe through a mask, and some viruses will make it through because the filtration is not perfect, these viruses that make it through will very likely have been destroyed and deactivated by the technology that they have passed through in these very few seconds. And this is a big advantage because it extends the useful time of a mask. We all know that if we wear a mask for many hours and it moists and it gets wet, the filtration potential goes down. So we have less filtration capacity. Thanks to the Viralblock technology, we are able to keep this non-infectious filtration capacity for viruses for longer time. That is one of the big advantages that you have. The other advantages that you have is that the technology has a very big storage of capacity to work. So even in tests that we have done over 3 hours with continuous infection of viruses, we have kept seeing that the reduction of the viruses of 2.5 to 3 logs is consistent over these 180 minutes where we have simulated multiple inoculations. So we are protecting the surface for a really long time with this technology. If you look at the textile masks that we make, we have even 30 washes that the technology can survive. So it's very, very robust. And even after 30 washes, the ISO 18184 test shows a very strong kill ratio against enveloped viruses. So you can say it is a continuous surface disinfectant, or as you would say in compliance terms, a residual surface disinfectant on the mask.
Thank you, Carlo, for your answer. I don't know, would anybody have another question for Professor Rossi? Okay, otherwise, I don't know, Mr. Rossi, if you would have to go. I think you have another appointment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hold you up too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks again. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
For your participation. And yeah, let's stay healthy and safe. Yeah. Okay. We have another question I see for Levetica. So Harsha Singh is wondering if the innermost layer can be incorporated into the masks we're producing. Could you please share your contact details? Okay, that's maybe for later.
Yeah,
sorry.
just send my details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll also just general information also post them in our after event blog, so you can connect with all of our speakers. Another question to HiQ: can we apply Viralblock on the layer next to the skin, the inner layer as well?
Yeah. So obviously we are using here a what is called in the compliance world biocide, and biocides are very tightly regulated, especially in Europe by the European Biocide Product Regulation, but also in the US by FIFRA from the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as FDA when you're talking about medical devices. So the HiQ Viralblock technology has been regulated and accepted as being unproblematic to be on the skin for these jurisdictions that I mentioned to you. What we have done in the company to make sure of that is skin patch tests, as well as cytotox tests, where we have data that have told us that we do not expect any adverse effects from wearing it on the skin. This said, in the masks that we are building, in the inner layer, we are actually not putting the Viralblock. In the inner layer, we're putting HiQ Smart Temp. And HiQ Smart Temp is one of our dynamic cooling technologies, which gives a cooling to the mask. And especially now that we're approaching summer, that might be one of the desired features, because wearing a mask in summer for the full day is really a sweaty and uncomfortable thing to do.
Okay, I think we're back again. Yeah, we just wanted the online audience to see the on-site audience. That's why we turned the camera. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Can anybody hear us?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, perfect. Sorry, we just turned the camera because one camera got off. I think now it should work. Please, Carlo, were you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, I also had a live question for HiQ, right? Yeah.
So actually, I've got my US client and I'm just chatting with him. His question is that possible for you to do the customization for the mask? Like they want some image on the mask. Is that possible?
Yes, that's possible, especially on the textile mask. There's basically full design freedom and liberty on the surface. For the professional masks, we can organize to have logos printed on it.
And not for FDA license, because he wanted to export it to the US market.
Yes, for the US market, if it is the professional mask, we have today one type. We're registering 2 further ones with the FDA, but that type can be exported into the US. HiQ is selling to the US government itself at the moment, so we are fully compliant to be on that market.
And any of your masks, any kind, they are reusable, like recycle? Is that possible? Sorry, maybe I missed that part.
Look, that's a more complicated question. It is possible with FDA to with the disposable masks that we make. It is possible to argue with FDA that you can have it as a reusable mask. In the short time that we had, however, there's no possibility for us to submit the data to them that the mask is reusable. But keep in mind that the surface is antiviral, is antibacterial, so it is self-disinfecting itself. It is clear that it's possible, if the filtration power of the mask has not been reduced by the usage, to consider to reuse it. I'm doing it all the time, and I don't feel having a problem with it, but this we cannot claim yet legally in the US, for example. So it is still a disposable mask in the US.
Okay, so for the disposable mask, how long can you use it? Like, what is the maximum for the duration you can put it on?
Again, this is something that is being stretched, and a professional mask is typically for medical personnel, and hospital regulations typically mandate that you change the mask from patient to patient. Obviously, in these times of shortage, that is not happening, which is a secondary recommendation where they recommend hospital personnel to wear it for 3 hours. But given the very scarce supply in some countries, they have extended that recommendation up to 14 hours. And now you see why the Viralblock technology might bring a big benefit, because after 14 hours, these disposable masks don't have the same filtration potential anymore. And we are bridging that time by the mask is losing its filtering potential, but we're still killing the viruses and still protecting the people more, much more, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times more than what the mask would otherwise have.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just a general question. Would you have any remarks or questions to Levetica Labs or Celine in our studio here, in our office? Maybe on site.
I'll ask one question. Are these available? Are these available now in the consumer market here in China? Can we find these in the store? Are they generally available?
You have to ask Celine.
Yeah, sorry, we haven't started yet. I was just doing, currently we're just doing the exportation, but hopefully we can start next month or end of next month. Yeah.
So I'll watch on next year.
Thank you.
Now and here.
Yeah, I think we bring some souvenirs for all of us here. So probably you can have one when back home.
Thank you, Celine. Any more questions to Levetica Labs and Theo? Oh. Or otherwise, if I look at the time, let's see, we don't have any more questions. I would cut it here. So I don't forget anything. Yeah, at the end of the presentation, we'll also put on a slide. You'll see it later. First of all, I wanna thank all the speakers again, and to do that in our studio here, I would like to ask our CEO and Science Consul Dr. Felix Mössner, to hand over a small gift. Our speaker package here.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Celine, for your time, and also Theo from Levetica Labs and Carlo back in Switzerland. It was very interesting to hear from your insights about MaskTech and MaskTech. So yeah, thanks, and stay healthy. So for the last slide, I mentioned already, we would have a QR code, and we will have an email address. So if you have any more questions that maybe haven't been answered today, please feel free to write. We'll try to answer it or forward you accordingly. So at the end, I would like to thank Nan, Nicole, Sissy, and Sherry from our SwissNext team for their support in putting this event together. And I want to just mention that our next Café de Science will be on July 16th. It's a joint event with the Consular General of Switzerland in Chengdu about eco farming. And we would love to see you again there. So yeah, have a nice afternoon or evening in Shanghai and a nice morning or a lunch break in Switzerland. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.